Hello, everyone. A very warm welcome to another exciting episode of Psychology Talks. And today we're going to discuss all about learning. And learning is a lifelong process. It helps us grow in life. Helps us. It helps us in every aspect of life. If we stop learning, that means we are not growing. So the only way to grow is to keep learning, but learning also changes. So we have to evolve with the changes that is happening around us. And this is exactly what we're going to discuss in our today's show. And our guest today is Dr. Gina Anderson. And she is the second time guest on our psychology talks. She is a renowned expert in the field of learning science with number of years of experience. Gina is the Inc. 5000 award-winning founder and CEO of Luma Learning, an instructional design and learning company. She routinely publishes new measurable science-based techniques specifically focused on adult learning to help companies improve their safety score and uphold compliance. She's also the author of Teaching Without a Teaching Degree, Luma Learning Lessons, and she has received numerous business awards. So let's welcome Dr. Gina. Hello, Dr. Gina. Thank you so much for joining us.
You bet. Thank you for having me today.
Yeah, you're most welcome. And thank you for joining us for the second time. So it's an honor.
Yeah, well, I'm so grateful to be here with you a second time and to discuss both of our deep passions, which is learning.
Yeah, I know. So I gave a little bit of introduction, and I'm actually so excited to talk about your new product that is revolutionizing. But before we jump into the discussion about your product, just tell us a little bit about yourself, and then we can talk about it. Yeah.
Sure. Awesome. Well, I'm going to talk about really where this idea came from and my passion. And I started my career as a special education teacher. And I would look out at all the students in my classroom and really wonder, sure, I should be delivering individualized instruction for everyone in my classroom. But how am I going to do that as one person? And I went back and got my further degrees in learning science, neuroscience, and instructional design to really understand how we can leverage our brains, how we can leverage how we learn specifically to design instruction and learning. And so, like you said, learning is always evolving. And also, our brains are always evolving and always changing depending on what we're learning. And there are documented ways that our brains are changing and evolving. And so, this is one of the reasons why I'm very passionate and excited about revolutionizing education with technology. And so, thank you so much for having me to talk about this today.
Yeah, thank you so much. And as I told you that I'm really excited to know what's the revolutionizing product is. So tell us a little bit about it, that what exactly it is. And you said that you got the idea and how you got inspired, but tell us what exactly it is.
Yeah, absolutely. So our company released a few weeks ago a new product called Luma Navigator. And this isn't like a sales pitch for everyone. This is about sharing how you can really reach individual learners. And so this idea, and I wrote an article about different interaction modes. And what I mean by that is most of us are used to instructor-led classes, right? Where we're sitting at the back of a class listening to a teacher talk. That's learner to instructor. That's just one mode of interaction. So learner to instructor. There's also this idea, which you do a lovely job and always talk about in your podcast, which is learner to self, really practicing a mindfulness mindset so that you can really understand and reflect on your own learning. So learner to self. We also have learner to learner. And Ambry, in trucking where I am, there's not a lot of learner to learner connections. Like, so in school, we think about this as group work, but giving problems and different things in hands-on learning so learners can learn together. And then we also have learner to machine, where just the mechanism of different functions and mathematical problems can actually leverage learning. And then finally learn it a content. That's what this is. If you're listening, this is content that you can learn from. So what our product does is it leverages all these different interaction modes to create a unique path for every individual, whether I need to call you, Amreen, because you did something that we need to talk about. Then 2 weeks later, I can give you a live session like this and have a coach.
Yeah.
Maybe then 3 weeks later, I need to have a different opportunity for you. So this idea of evolving different interaction modes throughout a period of time scheduled through technology is possible today. And then what we want to do ultimately, if we were to rate the different levels of how do you measure learning, because that's a whole different podcast if we talked about how we actually see that people learn, or how do you know that? But ultimately, what is it, right? We have to see someone perform that behavior to ultimately know that they're behaving the way we want them to. So we can in metrics, whether it's from public data, individual data, the trucking world, what it is called is FMCSA data. We can bring in data from the trucks and the vehicles to come into the system to see, are their behaviors improving? And then ultimately we can do research to find out which interaction mode has the biggest impact on influencing behavior. And I think that's so powerful for the future of research for education, to understand how do we truly change behaviors. And I think what we'll find is we all know that we need to build unique paths for everyone, because everyone's brains are uniquely different. So we can't rely on an out of the box experience for people.
Yeah, that's amazing. I think it's all about that, how we can customize learning, because everyone is different and everyone has a different pace of learning also. That, for example, like they can learn from different way, and there is a different pace also. So I know that you came up with this idea, but why did you actually felt that it needs to be changed? I mean, what is the difference between the current one and this one?
Yeah, because really, when you think about all the information that's out there, it's very content driven. Content doesn't change behaviors. AI generation of content isn't going to change somebody's behavior. It might influence your thinking, but ultimately, this connectiveness that we're missing and being connected at a human level is something that we need to bring back. And so, leveraging all the opportunities that we have, we know the research behind social learning and the benefits that it can do to leverage those synapses and those connections of memory. So what's wrong today is we're relying heavily on being alone and learning in isolation. And we need to come together to build human connections through technology. And technology, look, you're in Saudi Arabia. It's 9:00 at night, and you and I are having this beautiful experience together. And we can leverage all of this. So that's really what needs to be changed. We don't all have to be, by ourselves learning, or same time, same place learning. We need to have different ways of delivering education so we can change behaviors. And like and you've talked a lot about in your podcast series, is that generally people are feeling isolated and alone. So we need to do what we can to break this and help people feel more connected and to help them feel better. And so it's not just about knowing how to drive a truck, it's how to support people to learn compassion and empathy and social skills. And leveraging technology can do that.
Yeah, amazing. I think that is one thing that is, I would say, revolutionizing, because most of the time, as you mentioned, the learning is content based, and content based learning makes people so much isolated in a lot of way. Like, for example, if it's just absorbing the content, doesn't make you make any connection between the learning process and it, and that actually creates a lot of, like, as you said, that people feel alone, and that can lead to depression, and it can hurt their performances, which can again lead them to become more depressed, because they will feel that they are not performing well. So it's kind of they get into the cycle of depression or the low performance. So I think that's a very, very revolutionizing. And as you said, that it's it's a global way of doing this. And I want to highlight this your
Oh, nuggets in
just a
Saudi
nugget,
Arabia.
yeah, thank
Yes.
you for. So
Oh,
this nugget reached Saudi Arabia just because we had the connection last year. So I
absolutely.
really love that connection, and because of this, I can touch and feel. I can have better connection
Mm,
with you. So
yes.
it's amazing that how simple things, when customized, can create better
Mm.
connections. I can completely understand that.
Absolutely. Well, I am so glad that Nugget made its way all the way to Saudi Arabia. But it's not about it being cute. Like, what are you doing with this stuffed animal? It's about building meaningful connections. And
Absolutely.
when you can exchange that and have something physical that you can look at and think of someone or feel the love from someone, it can be revolutionary. Like, I feel like I know you and we've never met in person, and I feel connected. I told Ambreen the other day, like, I gave her a virtual hug. I mean, that's just it's
Yeah.
real. I mean, this is real. This isn't we're not I mean, we built a product so that you could deliver, because the reality is you're still that teacher in the classroom looking out, and we're not talking about 40 students. We're talking about like 10,000 drivers. Like, how do
Yeah.
you reach? How do you do it? It's like, great, Gina, that's all great in theory, but how do we do this? And it's like, here's a tool. Tools help us. They're tools to help us. You
Mhm.
have to create the experience in the path, and we can give you examples and plans and coaching plans, but this is about coaching. This is about building connection through learning, and that's really what it's about. That's my passion. And so building something that we can offer that, and maybe it is about teaching someone not to speed, but maybe it's about giving someone gratitude through a series of interaction modes that might not have experienced that.
Yeah. Okay. So I also want to like learn more about that. You mentioned that there is some kind of a different type of interaction, right, in your
Mm.
product. So what exactly how different it is, and
Mhm.
how it can help to learn better.
Yeah. So, really, a lot of times, what people will do is they'll send out a training video, just a video. And
Yeah.
so, instead of doing just a video, the idea is that you can set up a cadence or trigger and build out a path of different interactions. So, let's say the first thing is you set up a task for yourself to tell you to remind you to do a phone call. Maybe that phone call is about a readiness to change survey. So, talking to someone about where they're at and their path of their readiness to change on something. And so that gives them the opportunity to set, instead of just sending out a video like you were speeding, let's first do a phone call. And so the technology will set a date and send you a message with that survey and say, okay, this is what, and you can pick the elements of the interaction path. This is just an example, but you can make the phone call, give them that survey, and then 3 days later you can put in the schedule, it's going to remind you to get on a live session like this to talk about it. And it gives you examples, like kind of a coaching plan of how to coach people, because this is all good, but if you don't know how to coach somebody,
Yeah.
how are you going to help them? So it kind of gives you that opportunity. Then if you need to send content, great. Maybe they need to read about something related to that topic. You can send them a e-nugget, which is a micro lesson, a short little lesson on it, because
Oh,
they don't need to listen. They don't need to
yeah.
listen to a 30-minute video, right? They just need to listen to a little nugget of content. And then they can do maybe a reflection on that content. So a student to self reflection. And all of this is mapped out. So if you're the administrator, you can build these coaching plans ahead of time, or you can even customize them as you go. But the idea is that you're not just sending out a video. It's not
Yeah.
just send out a video and that's it.
Yeah.
And you never
Yeah.
hear, there's 10,000 people. Like, you have to keep a cadence of the learning, but you need technology with AI and automating. And one thing I've learned through working with a lot of clients is automating these things. Like, they don't want to do that. They want to have the personal touch, which is
Yeah.
amazing, right?
Yeah.
Because we
Absolutely.
want to have that human connection. How different is it to get a text versus just picking up the phone? I tell my support team, like, they respond to tickets, and I say, just pick up the phone and talk to them, because that human voice,
Yeah.
you can tell, makes such a difference. So that's really what's different. It's not just sending out an AI generated post to them. It's that human component of what you put out there.
Yeah, absolutely amazing. And I really like that it's a human touch, because I really hate when there is an automated voice coming up, that especially when you call like hotels or you call some school, oh my God, this just goes on in the loop. And then like you press this and this, you have to be so active. And then, when you have some complaint or something different, you just can't reach out. So it's a mess, and I really don't like it. It's just like simple. An operator can solve a simple query. So
right,
it's
absolutely.
Really...
And think about if 1 in 4 adults right now are feeling alone, if that's really the state, it's not going to break unless we really bring the human component back. And that doesn't mean that technology, it's like people say, well, you have a technology company. How is that human at all? And it's like, well, everything we do whether that's the content you write or the live sessions that you have to have a plan on how to build that compassion and empathy to coach individuals. So absolutely. We don't want a robot. We don't want to show up and have a robot. Right.
Yeah, absolutely. So today, like Barbara and Valerie has also joined. And so thanks a lot for joining. And
yes.
Keep pouring your comments. It's really nice to have you with us today. So thank you so much.
It's a coffee hour. Right. Yeah. Absolutely. They should join us for coffee. I keep telling them. I was in Dallas yesterday. I told both of them that I need to send out a coffee invite. So
that's true. And it's good to have them together. And maybe we can have like session with them, all four of us together.
Yeah, that would be great. Yeah.
So anyways, coming back to the topic that, like you talking about that the human element. And as you said, that even in the education system and in schools, it's kind of the same thing they teach to everyone, right? Which is actually not correct. And not everyone, especially kids these days, are much more aware, and they demand that, they don't need the same thing. That's what make kids, like those who want to learn in a different way, are kind of left behind or ridiculed, or that is one thing. So how do you foresee that, how, like, do you think your product have some kind of impact on the education system as well?
Yeah. So, I mean, we primarily focus in transportation, but that doesn't mean that there couldn't be other opportunities. But I do feel like, so when the pandemic happened in education, a lot of the schools, people saw the students, they went home with their computer and they did adaptive learning. That's not what we're talking about. Adaptive learning is like putting people in front of content. Again, we're talking about content. And it basically assesses you, and then it says, okay, you're here, but now maybe you should be here, or maybe you should be here. There's no human component of that. And then you have a teacher maybe checking in and asking how it's going. And that's how they track learning. And so people have this idea of online agents or online education as that. And that's not what we're talking about, And so for education, if the teacher, think about it like this, like in education, and I know both, Valerie and Barbara have experience with this, but being like on the side as a guide, like not ever be in the front, and having the ability to, as an instructor, to have these plans of, okay, we know, like your son, for example, he loves hands-on. He's so creative. He's brilliant at writing. So making a writing like hands-on plan for him, and that. And teachers, look, you may be dealing with 40 students if you have 3 bells. I mean, you're not talking about 10,000 learners like a trucking company. We're talking about manageable ways of doing this. Now, the challenge with education is tracking, okay, how do they do on standardized tests? But really what I'm talking about is we want to change behaviors. So it would be about, you would have to track in education of this. I mean, we know from a learning science standpoint, you should use different interaction modes. So it could be trickled down to education, but I want to track behaviors. So I want to have behaviors like workman comp behaviors, neuroscience behaviors, all the different data that you have from adults into our system to see how behaviors are changing. Do the interventions work? With children in classroom, it'd be 3 decades later, you'd have to get information to see, and you wouldn't really know how it's impacting. But I think education can leverage what we find with our research at an adult level to see the impact that different interaction modes have. And I think we already know that the key is you shouldn't teach everybody in the same way, because our brains and our chemicals and the way our emotions are all different. So absolutely. I'm really, as you can tell, passionate about it, because it is revolutionary, because it's hard for teachers. It's hard for educators. It's hard for people who aren't educators that have to teach, right? Yeah. So this gives them the opportunity to do that.
Yeah. So this is a very valid point that, it's like, it has to be customized. It has to be like, measurable, because, if you teach something and if it doesn't work, then it must show that, how you can improve or how you can change or something. But as you mentioned that, you teach like 10,000 instructor or something, right? So how you personalize and how you customize for each, I mean, it's a huge task. And then again, measuring their behavior is again a huge task. So how do you do that?
Yeah. So what you do is you really identify what are the problem areas, what is happening in the data, where are you seeing the pain points? So for example, people falling off ladders, people dealing with depression, people going in for mental health evaluations, people speeding, people texting and driving, people getting in accidents. Like all of this data is available at a public level. And so you focus on those key things and then provide opportunities around those key things in different ways. And so like if somebody is historically needing a certain area of education, we're talking about adult learning. So if someone really is needing to learn about, for example, gratitude is a topic, and we have a coaching plan on how do you teach someone gratitude or how do you learn gratitude, you give that and deliver it not by sending them an e-nugget just on gratitude, but it's let's make a phone call, let's do a live session, let's do a reflection paper, it's a multiple things. And the key is not just doing it one time, right? This repetition, this idea of repetition over time is critical in neuroscience for memory and information processing. So you need to do it over a period of time. So maybe, and I'm most interested, honestly, in the research of finding like, is there a particular time frame? Because there's all this debate about how many hours it is before something becomes a real defined memory. And honestly, it depends on what the chemical reaction, the emotional resonance that happened. I mean, there's all these factors. So this idea of what is the time? Like, what is the time? Like they see 7 plus or minus 2. Is it? I mean, is it really like, or is it like a year of like doing this? Is it two? Is it ongoing? So that's what I'm interested in, is this repetition and time frame too, because different types of interactions, time, it all matters.
Yeah. So this is like your product basically measures all these things, right?
Yeah.
That's how you can, okay, that's wonderful. And that's how you can actually bring about the change in the in their behavior and in your product as well.
Exactly. You can see trends. So it's very expensive when you have workman comp claims. It's very expensive when you have a lot of employees that are having to utilize health insurance. It's really expensive if you get into a car accident and you get sued. I mean, the truckers, if they get and they get in an accident, they could go out of business. This is critical. I mean, not only for the lives of people on the road, but it's also critical for the company. So we can take them information they have and make sense of it and build coaching plans off of it. And what's been done before is just reactive and send out a training video. What we're doing is being proactive and also measuring, does it work? Because I mean, we need to know if it works, just like in education. And for us, that this information is a daily, you can get this information daily. It's, it's ongoing, or monthly. And in the trucks, in the vehicles, in the trucks, you get this instantly. Like if they're hard braking or they're speeding or they're texting, and there's video cameras everywhere. You could
Yeah.
apply this in hospitals, I mean, in medical, a lot of different industries, in construction, because you have this information. Schools, the only information you have are the standardized tests,
Absolutely. Yeah.
which we
That
know
is
that's a whole different discussion.
absolutely. Yeah.
That's a
That's
different
something.
discussion.
Yeah. So I know, like, this is very interesting, and I'm sure it's going to help a lot because this is something that we need, all of us need that kind of intervention that you introduce. And it is really incredible. It's wonderful. So now, like, I just want to ask that, especially now that the age of AI, now what is happening is that, like, what you are doing is amazing, but what we see people are doing is that, they are trying to automate everything, right? And they're trying to take AI as a shortcut, not as like a partner, right? So what do you foresee the future trend, especially when AI is kind of replacing, not working as a like partner or something?
Right. Well, AI cannot replace the human component that's necessary for life and growth. That's
Yeah.
really it. I'm not afraid. I'm not afraid of AI. We actually use
Yeah.
AI in our platform to help be an assistant. Think of AI as like your assistant.
Yeah.
They're not supposed to replace you. It's supposed to
Yeah.
make your life easier. It's supposed to make things better. It's not supposed to replace education. It's kind of like, I kind of equate AI to the internet in a little ways, because when the internet came out and we did online learning, all the instructors felt, and this isn't higher ed, but all the instructors
Yeah.
felt like they're going to lose their job because the internet is going to take over and they're not going to be in the classroom anymore. Look, learning happens anytime, anywhere, any place, in our minds, every day, every minute.
Yeah.
AI is just one element of assisting you in different methods. So I wouldn't, from an education standpoint, I wouldn't be worried. It's kind of like the internet. Instead of Googling something, you're going to
Yeah.
you're going to use AI. Instead
Yeah.
of creating a PDF of something, you're going to use AI. There's, the thing is, now with everything, there are people that don't make good use of it, right? So there will be people that take advantage of things like generating things that aren't, for the good. But ultimately, AI is not a replacement of humans. It's just not. And
Yeah.
if we're just going to continue to increase this gap of people being lonely, and this gap where we're disconnected in a world where we should be connected,
Yeah.
because we're depending on things to do things that they really weren't and shouldn't be meant to do.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree with you that it's not something that we should be afraid of, and it should not be taken as a replacement. It should be an assistant. It should be a partner. Like, could be, we can do a lot of brainstorming thing. We can do something which can help us grow further, or help us, in creating something more valuable for the human. So I think that's the perfect thing.
Exactly. It's not going to replace the phone call. I mean, unless you have
Yeah.
an AI bot making the phone call and it sounds like you, but even so, like, it's not going to replace what we have right here today, where you're in Saudi Arabia, I'm in South
Yeah.
Carolina, and we have this meaningful connection.
Yeah, I know. And it's basically the connection that we have developed. It's also like a human connection. It's not just an AI thingy that just giving you a text that, okay, come on over the podcast and we use it.
Right.
and
Right.
and that's what matters. That's what matters, that whenever I'll actually message you, I know that I'll get a response from you, not from a robot or something. And
Right.
that's what matters. That's what.
Absolutely. And the thing is, like, people that use AI to help them write things and do things like that, that's just one element. But like you said, like, AI isn't going to send you nugget. I mean, AI isn't going to, step in and do the things that you need to do to make that conscious human decision.
Yeah.
It's kind of like decision making. It can make some decisions. It might not be the right decision, but you're going to step in and make that human decision and human connection. And that's what I love about technology. Technology is a tool. It's like one tool in your toolbox. You just take it around with you.
Yeah.
And it just makes some things easier.
Yeah, that's true. And AI can make a decision, but the thing is that the main soul behind the decision
Oh,
maker is basically what makes a decision more powerful, or which make a more
yeah.
soulful decision. And that is what it is lacking. So I personally, I always see this like AI part from a like kind of a spiritual
Hmm.
perspective as well, that
Uh-huh.
AI can be very intelligent and smart,
Hmm.
but it will never have the consciousness, it can never have the soul that we have, and the vibes we create this because
Mm.
of our soul, it will always be
Oh,
missing.
I
So
love that. I want to quote that. AI is not going to have our soul. I love that.
absolutely. I mean, like the kind of when we interact with someone, it's
Yeah.
not a matter of the space or the distance between us. It's the
Mm.
vibes that we create, and that
Mm.
makes it more, I would say, meaningful. Like when I've actually said it 1,000 times before also, but when we actually meet with some people, we actually get their vibes, and
Yes.
sometimes it clicks just immediately, like
Yes.
like when you and I connected, I just
Yes.
felt it's okay, there's a
Yes.
like very strong bond, and
Yeah.
like we clicked, and
Mm.
those interpersonal energies matter the
Mm.
most. So I think that's will always be missing in the AI part.
Absolutely. It's just like the internet. It's not going to replace our like you said, our souls.
Yeah, absolutely. So I know that it's a very important topic and we can go on and on, but I think we need to close the show. But what last one advice or would you like to give to our audience today?
Yeah, I would say learning is alive. If you're feeling hopeless, if you're feeling down, if you're feeling like you don't know what the next step is, just remember like Ambreen started the podcast, learning is the gateway for everything. If you continue to learn, you continue to grow. Learning is not just content, learning is building a human connection and being united. And so I would say if you were thinking today, like, what's the next thing for you? Think about something that will challenge you, something that will open a door for you, and just be open to this idea that learning is alive. And thank you so much, Ambreen, for having me on your podcast at my bedtime in Saudi Arabia. I do go to bed at 9 o'clock p.m. So
Yeah.
you're such a dear, and thank you for spreading all the information about everything you do. Thank you so much.
You're most welcome. And thanks for an amazing insights and the advice that you shared today. And your product is incredibly amazing. I think everyone must at least check out and you use your product, because I think that's going to change the way learning will be done in the future. So thank you for like creating that product.
Yes,
Thank you so much.
absolutely. Thank
Yeah.
you.
Yeah, and thanks to Valerie, Barbara, and Denise, and whoever is joined from the different platform. Thanks for joining, and have a great day.